Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Just testing the volume here. Everyone okay? Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, my name is Alan Ames, and I am pleased to be here introducing you to my show, Alan Ames Thinks He's Funny. But I do have an announcement that I have to make first. The Senior Center wants me to announce that if anyone is here for the toenail cutting clinic, it's been postponed until tomorrow at 2, followed immediately by dinner at 2:30. Thanks, I love that joke. So everyone's comfortable, you sure? I don't know, does it feel a little short and chubby in here, or is it just me? See, I knew your table would like self-deprecating humor. I knew that would happen. So since you like that joke, since I started doing comedy, people ask, well, you know, are you funny, are you funny, are you funny? And I answer, I must be funny because my wife laughs every time I step out of the shower. So this is my 4th time doing a 1-hour presentation of my show since I started this back in August. But prior to that, I was doing stand-up at a bar in Providence back in April, just doing 5 minutes. And I did that several times. Realized that 20 and 30-year-olds drinking around a bar weren't really my audience, so I thought to myself, I have a lot of material, I'll put it all together, and I put together this show, which I've taken on the road, to different senior centers, so I'm doing the senior circuit, so to speak. Now, I am a volunteer, so I do this for free. I don't have money to donate, but I have my time and I have my show, and that's just my way of giving back, so that's what I do. You folks are great, you clapped right on cue.
Well, they told us we'd better or else.
So I see this is an interactive hour we're gonna have.
You're in trouble today.
Lee, I expected this from you, not from them. But there's another reason that I do the show for free. And that's because I don't want anybody chasing me in the parking lot asking for their money back. So, let me start with a joke. I mean, an actual joke that I plan to tell. And then I'll do more of a formal introduction for myself. An elderly man is in a senior assisted living, and he's about to turn 80. His friends want to play a joke on him, and they hire a professional woman to visit him on the day of his 80th birthday. So the day arrives, and there is a knock on the door. I have to do my own sound effects. A beautiful woman walks in, and she exclaims to him, she exclaims enthusiastically, she says, I am here to bring you super sex. So the man thinks for a second, and he says to her, thank you very much, young lady. I think I'll have the soup. I love your table. All right. So I am originally from Dorchester. I am OFD. OFD, originally from Dorchester. There's bumper stickers and everything that say that. And I was entering my junior high school when my family moved to Stoughton. And that's where I met my wife. My wife and I have been married 48 years. We are high school honeys.
Aww. How sweet.
You awed right on cue also. We graduated Stoughton High together in 70. UMass Amherst, we graduated together in 74. A year later, we got married, and then the first of 3 kids, 2 sons and a daughter, all in their 40s now. and 6 grandchildren. It is. It is nice. It is nice. Career-wise, my background is food service management. I was with Papa Gino's for a very long time back in the day. And then I kind of transitioned over to Showcase Cinemas as a concessions manager for them. When I turned 60, 11 years ago, that makes me 71. I retired from my field and I became a chauffeur. I'm a morning driver for Cary International Limousine. I do 5 mornings a week. That's how I know that guy, who I'm surprised hasn't heckled me yet. Besides that, I'm a very avid tennis player. I go to the Y 3-4 days a week. And, it just takes a lot of work to keep this physique in such top shape. So, a little bit about Dorchester, just to kind of bring everyone back to the 50s and 60s for a few minutes. I have mostly fond memories of growing up in the triple deckers. It's okay, you can laugh. It's fine. It's fine. And in Dorchester, the triple deckers are very close together, right? And people can just drop by like anytime, right? They just kind of come in. And so some of the things that I remember from growing up in Dorchester, when I was like 8 or 10, so this is around 1960, some things I didn't quite understand, but I just kind of accepted. We had a bowl of plastic fruit. Was this a thing, or was this just us? We had a bowl of plastic fruit.
No, everybody. On the kitchen table.
Decoration.
So we kept ours in the pantry because we only took it out when we had company, okay? And it was my job to bring out the bowl of plastic fruit when company came. So as soon as the doorbell rang, and back then, with the neighborhood so close, people didn't have cell phones, and they drive around and they go, oh, let's go visit the Ameses, and the doorbell would ring, and it's like, we got company, and I had to run to the pantry, dust off the bowl of plastic fruit, and put it out on the table. They'd come up, they go, oh, look, you put out your bowl of plastic fruit? Yes. We do that for all our special guests, all our people. They get the plastic bowl of fruit. And then once they're gone, put it right back in the pantry. But something else with plastic back in that day. We had living room couch. It always had this plastic, clear plastic on the couch. Never came off. And I never understood what would happen if I actually touched the couch, right? But even when company came over, they had to sit on the plastic on the couch. And during the summer, there's no air conditioning back then. Short sleeve, short shirt, short shorts, and you'd sit and you'd sweat on this plastic and it'd start like slipping off. I don't understand it. Another thing about that time is that made it different than today. My mother was having a birthday, right about 1960. She was a secretary, and she took a bus and a train to go into Boston, and then the train and the bus to get back home again and walk from, to our house. My father got her a vacuum cleaner for her birthday. If I ever got my wife a household appliance for her birthday, the cause of death on the coroner's report would be strangulation by electrical cord. It really would. So we had the vacuum cleaner set up so that when my mother came up the stairs and she opened the door, we'd flip on the vacuum cleaner, go, happy birthday! And she'd look at it. And she'd try to smile. We'd say, okay, happy birthday. Go vacuum the house now. And then what's for dinner? But like I said, never ever, wouldn't do that again today, no way. Now my dad, if he was still alive, would be about 103 right now. And I am a lot like him and his family. They were all storytellers and joke tellers. And he would sit outside their apartment complex in Brockton when they retired. In the nice weather, the kids of all ethnicities would sit on the grass, and he would sit down and he would just tell them stories and stories and stories. So I think I get a lot of that. I'm wondering if I'm going to get a cookie.
He hasn't earned it yet.
Since we're taking a refreshment break here, hold on. My father had this little poem that he used to say, and it's about hay toilets. If you remember, downtown in different places, if you wanted to use a stall, yes, and we wore what? What did we wear to put the dime in? Penny loafers.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We used to stick a dime or a quarter, whatever, in them so that if we had to make a phone call or go to the bathroom, we at least had a dime on the top of our shoe. So my father had this poem, and he would say it often. And I'd like to just honor his memory now and say the poem. It's not necessarily funny, it's just kind of cute. And it goes like this. Here I sit, broken-hearted, paid a dime and only farted. It's cute, right? It's fun. But also, my dad knew just the right thing to say to me if I did something stupid, said something wrong, or just really messed up. He always knew just the right thing to say to me to make me feel better. Lee, can you hear me?
What?
Yeah. Since he got his implants, he's been a real pain. One day, I'm about 10 in the triple decker in Dorchester, and I'm carrying a plate of food to the kitchen table. It all slipped off. Yeah. So I froze. Looked at my dad. He looked at me and he said, "Just the right thing to make me feel better." He said, "Alan, I can't believe you were the fastest sperm."
Oh.
See, he thought I was the fastest at something. Actually, he said that quite often, now that I think about it. So let's go to the fact that we have 2 sons and a daughter, all grown up, all in their 40s, like I said. One is in Washington, D.C., the other one is up in Haverhill, the other is in Easton. Now, the one that's up in Haverhill, actually in Groveland, he's up there because he married a North Shore girl. And not from any of the good towns in the North Shore. No.
It's not wrong.
Not, we'll get to that. Not from like Andover, not like Beverly, not like Swampscott, not like Marblehead, Essex, any of those nice towns. She's from one of the deadly L's. Lawrence, Lowell, she's from Lynn. Lynn, city of sin. You never come out the way you went in, right? So when he was first dating her, her name is Jen, and just so you know, she did give me permission to do this bit because she's already heard it. So when they first started dating, I noticed that she loved wearing jewelry, right? Rings, necklaces, bracelets around the ankle, and the jewelry around her ankle was gorgeous. You could hardly even tell it was a GPS tracking device. Her parents still live in Lynn. They do. And her brother, too, sometimes when, he's on parole. Jen's fine with this, really.
She better be, because I'm telling her.
Bling.
Yeah.
Yes. I will use that next time.
Like one apple.
Yes. Okay. Thanks. We tried to warn them that there are actually cultural differences between North Shore and South Shore, right? Because like they have Richardson's ice cream up there, and we have our Crescent Ridge and Bubbly Brook and different places all around. They like their roast beef sandwiches like Kelly's, and we like our bar pizza down here like Town Spa or Linwood or different places around here. They have Revere Beach, but we have Nantasket Beach. We have Cape Cod, they have Cape Ann. And they have these little green-headed flies up there on one of their beaches. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, they do. And we don't, right? We don't. So,
They have rats.
I see everyone's in agreement with me about the differences, right, between, okay. So, we're trying to warn him that if it gets serious, right, we're going, Matt, they're different, they're different up there. They have an orange dinosaur that overlooks Route 1 in Saugus.
It was a golf course. Miniature golf.
Yes,
And then they changed it.
Yes.
The dinosaur's still there.
yes. Okay, now that my punchline has gone away, I'll still do it anyway. So, I'm telling you, this orange dinosaur, like, what is the big deal with this orange dinosaur? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, take a car ride, get your passport, so you can cross the border into the North Shore. Go up to what used to be one of the best places to eat, the Hilltop Steakhouse.
It's gone.
Yeah, the cactus is left, not Frank Jafrita's name, it's Avalon and it's everything else now. Come back down Route 1 and you will see this orange dinosaur overlooking Route 1. And yes, it was a miniature golf course there once. And they kept the orange dinosaur, now it's an apartment complex. So whoever has spaces 17 and 18, they have to share it actually with the orange dinosaur, right?
Yeah. It's a landmark like that.
It is. So we're trying to talk to Matt, like, if it gets serious, if you guys get married, what about the children? What about grandchildren? Are they going to be North Shore people? Are they going to be South Shore people? Which are they going to be? But in my daughter-in-law's defense, Jen is very accomplished. She is actually a sommelier, a wine expert, which makes sense because she's also a big wino. She is. Any picture of her, she is holding a glass of wine. She's a second-level sommelier, and you can actually pour her a glass of any wine, she'll sniff it, taste it, and she will tell you everything about it. Everything. She does this thing on the side where people that are quite wealthy invite her into their homes at like a dinner party. And she will bring a bunch of wine and she'll do wine tastings for them and make a whole bunch of money, and it's like a couple of hours. Now, if anybody wants to get in touch with her to do that, just let me know. If she does come into your home, just make sure you put all your prescriptions away. Now, one more thing about my daughter-in-law. She introduced us to the wonderful world of the charcuterie board. So this charcuterie board, I didn't really know much about it years ago. I've kind of become a fan of it. But from the little that I knew about charcuterie boards, I knew that eating food off of a 2x4 just wasn't my thing. But it's not like that. It's any kind of piece of wood, and you can put meats and cheeses and spreads, and I gotta tell you, I think the French started this, because they're always messing with us. They got us to drink bottled water. I think there was a couple in France that were drinking heavily and wanted to have a snack, and they're looking around, they don't have any clean glasses, no clean platters to put things on, and they said, I have a piece of plywood out in the garage, I'll dust it off and we'll use that. And then it was like, I bet you we can get those silly Americans to do this. Let's give it a fancy name. We'll call it a charcuterie board. And now we're all doing that, these charcuterie boards. Married life with the Ameses. So, there's a few things I want to talk about now as we progress. First of all, there was the clock, yeah, good. I have a very unique relationship with squirrels, chipmunks, and birds in my backyard. Because for years, I've been feeding them. Right? I don't care. Bread, nuts, anything that's stale, just throw out. And I've been doing that for years. But about 3 or 4 years ago, my wife started putting tomato plants on our back deck. And she said, Alan, I don't want you doing that anymore, because they're gonna eat my tomatoes. I said, don't worry about it. I'll talk with them. Oh, come on. You guys talk with your pets and your dogs and your cats, and they understand you well. My chipmunks and my squirrels and all the birds, they understand me. So I set up a sit-down meeting with the elders of the chipmunk and squirrel community. I even brought a little charcuterie board with me, because I knew about them now. And we agreed that as long as I kept feeding them, they would leave my wife's tomato plants alone. And this worked out great. And over the last few years, every once in a while, if I'm at work and my wife is home, and this deck is right off of our kitchen with the sliding glass doors, she'll send me a text to say, your friends are here. And they would actually come up to the door, and the squirrels would knock their tails against the glass door, and because they want to get fed. And there's one squirrel that is very aggressive. This squirrel goes like this. It does. What do I want to do next? So we're getting older. Things change. Medications change. Our health changes. Our outlook on life changes a little bit. And I had been dyeing my hair black for decades. And about 1.5 years ago, I just let it go gray like it is now. The thing I noticed right away is that everyone started calling me sir. Right? Everyone called me sir, everyone's holding doors for me, and I would have done this a lot sooner if I knew that was going to happen. Right? And speaking of gray hair, wasn't it wonderful that the month of June that just passed was for us, was for seniors? It was a month that was dedicated to all of our accomplishments, and we finally got our respect. It was Gray Pride Month, right? Wasn't it Gray Pride Month back in June? It was. So friends of mine and we went into Boston for the Gray Pride Parade. Just a couple of us. We went in, and oh my God, I never realized that we had so much support from the LGBTQ community. They must love their grandparents. It was wonderful, and you should have seen them. They had all these colors, and the boas and the hats with plastic fruit on it. They were chanting Gray Pride, and we're like, on the sideline, and we're like high-fiving them now. And a couple of them said, come and join us. We wanted to, but we didn't. We said, well, maybe next year. But they're chanting and they're screaming Gray Pride. And now I did notice some seniors out there. But I think we can go a step further. If you like, I will come back here in June. We'll get a bus, get all your fancy clothes, we'll go in and we'll march for the Gray Pride Parade. How's that sound? I'll do it. You get the bus, we'll go in, we'll arrange it, we'll be part of the Gray Pride Parade. When I was younger, I wanted to be cool just like all the other guys. So I carried a condom in my wallet. Oh, come on, that's not that bad. This is a PG-13 performance here, so that's not that bad. Well, I don't have a condom in my wallet anymore. But what do I have now? I have lactate pills in my wallet now. Just in case I come across a nice hot fudge sundae, I have that. So my friend here said that I had a hop for her once, so this is it. Are you happy now?
Good job.
This is a
Can you do it
relative
again
of a
so I can
relative.
get it on video?
Oh, God. All right.
One more time.
Okay.
All right, now you can go.
Anything for a laugh. Anything for a laugh. All right, so also, I had a small battleship tattoo years ago. And you've all seen the memes and the cartoons about when people get older, the things just kind of, and that did happen with me, but I've gone a step further, all right? Over the last 18 months, I've actually lost some weight, kind of gotten in shape, so my ship is slowly coming up again. And my goal is to actually get it back to the surface, so if people ask me if I'm dieting, I can actually say, not really, it's more like I'm conducting a salvage operation here. I mentioned before that I'm a tennis player, and even that has changed. For those that are familiar with tennis, you have like 10 minutes or so before you start the actual match where you're warming up, hitting the ball around. You know, all the people that I play tennis with are my age or older. We're still pretty good, but our 10-minute warm-up now isn't that. It's 10 minutes of everyone talking about their medications now. And their doctors and what, you know, procedures they're gonna have next. So, oh, we're agreeing with that, right? Okay, good. Very good. Now, as I take a quick sip here, give me one sec. I'm really a storyteller. I tend to tell more stories and do routines than I do actual jokes. So, to try to balance things off, I'm going to rattle off about a dozen or so jokes or silly things that I've said. Okay. Two lifelong buddies from Selfie. One of them is very ill. They've been drinking buddies their whole lives. In the hospital, not quite sure how things are going to go, and he says to his friend, Johnny, do me a favor. If I die, will you pour a bottle of my favorite Irish whiskey over my grave? His friend says, sure, Timmy, I'll do that. But would you mind if I strained it through my kidneys first? Two other lifelong buddies, but this time they're baseball buddies. Season's tickets, spring training, Red Sox, the whole way. One of them does pass. A few nights later, the remaining guy is in bed, and he sees a vision of his friend in his bedroom. He says, Rob, is that you? Is that you? Yes, it's me. Oh, you're in heaven, right? Yes, of course I'm in heaven. Well, answer me this. Is there baseball in heaven? And his friend goes, well, I have good news and bad news. What's good news? Good news is, yes, there is baseball in heaven. All right, well, what's the bad news? Bad news is you're pitching tomorrow. Our former Senator John Kerry. All right, keep the political comments to ourselves. He married, Teresa Hines from the ketchup whole thing like that. Okay? When they were dating, he actually had the nerve to ask her, how many positions do you know? And she said, I have 57 varieties. We all know who Brooke. Okay, that one took a few seconds, right?
Delayed reaction.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Brooke Shields. She opened up a line of feminine hygiene products. Very conveniently, she's calling them Brooke Shields. See, that's the reaction I always get to that joke. And I still tell it. I tell one short joke. And because I have had a lifetime of short jokes hurled at me, I figure I can do one. So this is about the French actor that played Tattoo on the original Fantasy Island. Hervé Villechaize was his name. And he was barely 4 feet tall. But in real life, he married a woman who was of average height. She was like 5'5", 5'6", or something like that. But I understand that someone put him up to it. A couple of silly things I've said in the doctor's office just to try to lighten the mood. So my wife had poison ivy, and we had seen a dermatologist and got some salve like that. And on a return visit, we're waiting in his office, and the doctor comes in. First thing he says is, "So how's the itch?" I said, "I'm fine, thanks for asking." I do this. This is what I do. I went to my dermatologist for my yearly, look at all the little tags and things that we're blessed with now. And she's asking me different questions, and then she says, "So, have you seen anything new?" I said, "Yeah, I saw Avatar. What's that got to do with anything?" Two little girls, sisters. One's like 6, one's like 4. They're in the bathroom of their house, and they're looking at the scale that's on the floor. The older one says to the younger sister, "Don't ever step on that. Every time Mommy steps on it, it makes her cry." Remember the old A&P supermarket chain?
Yes.
Have you heard this old joke? They almost merged with Stop and Shop. It was going to be called Stop and Pee. That would have been great, right? Walking, driving around and see a big sign that says "Stop and Pee." Power of suggestion. Everyone would be going in there. So, our oldest son lives in D.C., in that area. I think I mentioned that earlier, and we've been down there many times over the years. And we've seen all the Smithsonians. But several years ago, they opened up a spy museum. So one day we wanted to go check it out, but we could never find it. Our 2 sons are very competitive. They were arguing one day about, I make this much, and my bonus is this, and my potential is this, and I just got tired of it. So I interrupted. I got involved. I said, "Okay, that's enough. I make 6 figures also." Unfortunately, 2 of them are after the decimal point. And then a short while later, they're arguing about how they graduated with honors, how smart they are. "Oh, I graduated, cum laude, summa cum laude, magna this, magna that." And I said, "You know what? I graduated with honors too." And they go, "Dad, you did? What honors did you graduate with?" I said, "I graduated summa cum get me." I hear there's a new restaurant opening up here in town. It's a combination Jewish and Japanese food. It's going to be called Sosumi. I had to get new numbers for my mailbox. We live at number 10 on our street. So we went and looking in the hardware store section where they keep all the numbers. I called the manager over. I said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I need the number 10, but the highest number you have is 9. So I got a 9, and I put it on the mailbox. It's the closest thing I could get. So sometimes my neighbor gets their pizza delivered, and sometimes I don't. I think we're going to do a musical interlude here. I brought my harmonica. I took harmonica lessons recently. Give you a small sample. That's Mozart's Fifth in B flat. So, I am a proud graduate of the Betty Crocker School of Music. So not only can I kind of play the harmonica, but I make a heck of a bundt cake. You've heard these things, the bundt cakes? I learned a lot about bundt cakes. Actually, any recipe would do. It's named because of the pan, right? It has a hole in the middle, and it has like these, river ribs or the valleys and everything on the bundt pan. So there's been a resurgence of bundt cakes lately because of the movie Big Fat Greek Wedding, if you remember. There was the time when the parents of the groom went to meet the big Greek family, and she comes and gives a bundt cake, right? And they look at it and they go, "What is that?" "It's a bundt cake." "What's a bundt cake?" So ever since then, there's been a resurgence. In fact, and this is true, there's actually some bakeries that have popped up called Nothing Bundt Cake. There's actually one in Newton. So I want to go there someday. Hope you go. Mention my name that I'm plugging their product. I mentioned that I drive, right? I drive for a limousine service in the morning. So I'm actually a pretty good driver. What I don't like, however, is when people yell wrong way at me. You're going the wrong way. Like, they're not psychic. They don't know what my destination is. I know how to go north to get to New Hampshire or south to get to Rhode Island. I don't need people yelling at me that I'm going the wrong way. They don't know where I'm going. And also, as you know, in Boston, we don't have turn signals. We have blinkers, right? We have blinkers. But if you're a true Bostonian like me, we don't use our blinkers because we don't want the enemy to know what we're doing. I need to explain how a few things work as far as our pay and the tipping situation at Carey International. First of all, I'm hourly, but I do get 20% of gratuity of the base rate. So people don't have to give me money, like extra, and sometimes they do because obviously they think we did a really good job and we're more than happy to take their money from them. But the one thing that gets me, and if they give money, it's like a 10 or a 20 or something like that, which is great, is that if people are in the back seat and they're getting money out of their wallet, I can hear it. You can actually, it makes a very distinct sound when you, now I'm not good enough to know what denomination it is yet, but I'm working on it, right? And if you're gonna give me money, just give it to me. Because there are people that for some reason, they take the 10, for example, and they're folding it over like they're doing some kind of an origami thing, right? And now they're burying it in their hand, and they're gonna pass it off to me like in a handshake. You know, it's not a drug deal. Just give me the money. I don't want to have to dig it out of your hand to get all that money, $10, $20, whatever it might be. And sometimes people ask me, well, what about talking with your passengers? So here's the thing. Obviously, I can hear people if they're talking on their phone, or if there's two people in the back, I can hear them talking. I'm really not paying attention because I don't really care unless there's a few keywords that will get my attention. But as soon as someone starts whispering in my back seat, you now have my full attention. I need to know what you're talking about that you are now whispering either on the phone or to someone else that's back there. And the one thing I never understood is I had an Asian couple in the back. And they were speaking Mandarin. I don't speak Mandarin. So they're back there, and then they start whispering in Mandarin. Like, what awful thing are they talking about that they now have to whisper in Mandarin, right? I just don't get it. People ask me, oh, have you driven anyone famous? Yeah, I have. For example, Katie Couric, Hoda Gotti, Meredith Vieira, sports people, Pudge. I drove Pudge from the Red Sox years ago. I drove Tim Wakefield, who passed recently. And when I dropped him off at the airport, I said to him, Mr. Wakefield, thanks for everything you've done for the Sox. And he stopped and he came back to the car because he had gotten a little bit further away. He did. He said, thanks. I appreciate that. Really class act. Really class act. Remember when Jimmy Garoppolo got traded to San Francisco?
Yeah.
His trade was announced on a Monday. The next morning, I drove him to the airport. I did. I drove him to TF Green. He was getting on a private plane so he could go to San Francisco. So I get him in the car, got all his luggage in. It was early in the morning. Picked him up in an apartment complex in Foxborough. And I said to him, on behalf of all of New England, I'd like to thank you for everything you've done. Wish you good luck. He said, thanks. I decided to appoint myself spokesperson for all of New England. And then I said, your trade took us all by surprise. He said, yeah, me too. But that's not where this quick little story ends. On the way to the airport, just before I'm getting on Interstate 95, I had to avoid a wrong-way driver. I think someone fell asleep. They were coming off a ramp on the other side of 140 before I go down 95. And we heard a loud crash to our left. They came over the median strip right at us. And I had to veer to the right and give this a lot of gas and just get out of the way. Now, this isn't a joke. I'm just telling you an interesting story. And if you put into the internet Jimmy Garoppolo almost car accident, you'll see a lot of the interviews because he still talks about it. He talks about how he almost didn't get to San Francisco. He does. He doesn't mention my name, doesn't mention any of the company, and he doesn't really tell the story right, but if you're curious, if I'm telling the truth, you can look it up. Jimmy Garoppolo, almost car accident. So there are some things, well, there's quite a few things that bother me. But I want to talk about some of them. If any of you still have a landline, keep it. Keep it. Because for those of us that don't, and we just have our cell phones, if you get angry, you can't slam your cell phone down and hang up on somebody, right? It doesn't work unless you have a really good Apple Care program, right? Because it's not the same. It's not the same. Say that you're mad about some part that you still have to wait for, and you're talking to them on the phone, and they go, "Yeah, it's going to be a couple more months before your part comes in," and you go, "Oh yeah? Well, let me tell you what I think about that." And they slam either on the wall or on the counter one, right? And those phones hold up pretty good. Can't do that with your cell phone. What would that even look like? What would that even look like? Gotta do this. I'll get the hang of this. Hold on. All right, here we go. Oh, my phone's here. Okay, just a second. So using your cell phone for that scenario, that doesn't work. It would be like, "Oh yeah? Well, let me tell you what I think about that." And the guy on the other end goes, I don't know, I thought he was mad, but now he's gone. I don't know what happened. There are some signs around that bother me. There really are. If you're coming up Route 95 in the Connecticut area, say you're coming up from like New York, I just sounded like a New Yorker. If you're coming up and about 30, 40 miles up into 95, I may be in the Stamford area, there's actually a sign on the side of the road that says, correctional facility, no stopping. Is this a problem? Does this happen so often that they have to put up a sign for motorists so that they don't stop and pick up people in orange uniforms from the prison? Like, why? Why? You know what? Instead of spending money on the sign, why don't they just fix the hole in the wall? I mean, is that the plan? Right? Yeah, we're gonna break out tomorrow. We're gonna sneak out. We're gonna run through the trees right to the edge of the highway. We're gonna hitch a ride. No, you can't do that. There's a sign there now. Down in Connecticut, also, if you're going towards Foxwoods, there's about 9 miles of road, the rotaries and all like that. There's a sign. Actually, they're all over Connecticut, but the first time I saw it's a fine for littering, right? For littering, $219. Did you get one? I'm not making this up. They're there. So the thing is, how did they get that number? How do they get that number? But worse than that, if you're driving towards Provincetown, about 10 miles before you get to Provincetown, on the left side of the road, there's a huge sign that says, fine for littering, $0 to $10,000. You've seen it? Yeah. Does anyone have $10,000 worth of trash in their car that they're gonna throw out the window? How does one actually get to be fined $10,000? Well, I have one possible scenario. It's kind of a stretch. But let's imagine that there's a couple of gangsters and they have a body in the trunk. And they pull over to the side of the road, and it's wintertime, there's not much going on down there. They pull over to the side of the road, open up the trunk, and there's his body in like some kind of a bag or something like that. They don't know there's a police officer right over there watching, right? So they carry this body to like the tree line. And then, of course, the police officers call for backup, and they go, okay, hands up. You're under arrest. What's in the bag? What's in the bag? And he looks and goes, it's a body, right? He goes, hey, you're under arrest for murder, and I'm fining you $10,000. Finally, I won the pool. Been to a Big Y lately? I'm not making this up. There's a sign in the parking lot of the Big Y, because I went the other day, just to pick up a rotisserie chicken. And it was afternoon, and there weren't that many parking spots. There weren't. But I found one, and I'm about to pull into that parking spot, and there's a sign posted. This is exactly what the sign says. Parking for customers with children. So I pulled in. So as I got out of the car, this woman yells at me. She goes, where are your children? Well, one's in D.C., one's up there, the New Hampshire border, and one's in Easton. How about you? So, by the look of her face, I think the sign needs to be a little bit more specific. Just a little bit. I I really want to tell you one more story from my driving because people ask, what was your favorite ride? And I want to tell you my favorite ride before I wrap up in about 10 minutes. But I need a sip first. I meant to get a smaller one that I could just hold all the time, but this is all I could find. My favorite all-time story from driving involves picking up a woman one morning when there was a Patriots victory parade in downtown Boston. The woman was trying to get to the airport to get on a British Air flight to go home. It's a true story. She wasn't aware that this was happening because we were getting close to the time that this parade, which starts at Government Center, if you know Boston at all, and it comes down Tremont Street. And I had to pick her up at Hotel 90, which is 90 Tremont Street, which is right on the parade route. So I got there nice and early, but they already had the iron gates up on both sides of the sidewalks, and there's people lined up like 6 deep on both sides. And I'm in this little alleyway next to the hotel texting her, you gotta get here really quick because they're gonna close this gate. I'm not gonna be able to get out of this alleyway to get you to the airport. So she's racing. She finally gets in the car, and the policeman right at the top of this alleyway was about to close the gate, and he waved me on. I put my high beams on, I had my blinkers on, my emergency blinkers on, and he said, go nice and slow. So I took a left on Tremont Street, and in my rear view mirror, the parade is like 100 feet behind me, right? So I'm driving a black Cadillac. Woman's in the back seat. People are cheering us. I'm going about 8 miles an hour. I get my high beams on, emergency flashes on, and they think that we're the lead car of the parade. Now this woman from England doesn't know American football, and she's just taking it all in, and now people are yelling at me. Who is she? Who is she? So I rolled down my window. Belichick's secretary. They went crazy. They went crazy. And now she's like eating it up. She's got her window down. She's waving to everybody, right? She's got her hand out. People are high-fiving us as we're slowly going down Tremont Street. And it was just awesome. It really was. I started doing this stand-up comedy back in April. I was doing 5 minutes at a bar down in Providence. I did that several times, like I mentioned, and it developed into this. And this is my fourth, if I think I might have said it right. This is my fourth 1-hour show that I've done at senior centers in the South Shore. And just in case you have friends that live in the following towns, at the end of the month I'll be at the senior center in Raynham, the senior center in Sharon in January, the senior center in Sherborne, I think in February, and that's all that I have at the moment that I can think of. So what I'd like to do is, first of all, thank you all. You have been great, especially your table. You guys are okay too. I'm going to leave you with one piece of advice, but I want to thank you all for inviting me into your senior center. I've had a great time. You guys are awesome. If somebody came up to you and asked you for a piece of advice, I'm sure with all the experience that you've had, you'd come up with something. So I'm going to share with you a piece of advice that maybe will be handy for you, or will come in handy at some point. Never, ever, ever go through a car wash when you have to pee. It never ends well. It never ends well. Thank you, everybody. Okay, you can go now. Or if you want to come talk to me, I'll hang around, whatever you want to do. I can play harmonica some more if you want. Hi.
I wanted to tell you, you might choose up talking to senior center because they're quite active. Talking to you might check
You know, here's the thing. I sent emails, I sent queries to about 24 towns in the area. I'd have to check my records to see which ones, but you know, not all of them responded to me.
Okay.
Hopkinton might be one of them, but I'll try to follow up with them.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Enjoyed it. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
So much, and don't forget, that ankle bracelet is bling.
Is bling. You know, I will think of you every time, and I will
That's
say
right,
that
and
from
make
now
sure
on.
you use it.
I will.
And I don't usually speak up, but I said, no, I've got to tell him. It's very easy.
I'm glad you did.
Okay, so nice.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it's very necessary. It was either you or me.
Oh, well, you made the right choice.